Everybody, John here with another FinCast, and I just paid about $8 a piece for some kind of regular tetras. They came from Dan's Fish, which is an online retailer, and Dan says that he is doing this for the right reasons. I discovered him after listening to a podcast, and so I thought, well, if you pay $8 for a tetra, is it worth it? And we're going to take a look coming up in this FinCast. Anytime you get a fish order, you're very excited. So I opened the box and immediately I could see a difference in the way these fish were packaged. Number one, instead of the larger baggies that you would normally expect, each fish was individually packaged in its own bag. Apistogrammas female. It's printed right out on the bag right there. You probably can't see it, but I'll get a closer shot. It also talks about which tank it came from within their facility and what shelf it is. So you can tell that there's a lot of attention to detail. And then the other thing I would say is everything is double bagged and each fish is in its own bag. And this is a nice heavy ply plastic. And so definitely what I heard on the podcast and what I'm seeing right here about Dan's Fish would appear to be true in terms of how he's trying to really improve the quality of life for fish in his facility, the shipping process, and the success for the aquarium keeper at home ultimately. The tetras, of course, don't take up quite as much space as compared to the volume of water in the bag. When I opened those up, I found that there wasn't much smell or residue on the inside of the bag. Compare that to the inside of the bag with the male Cochu apistogramma, and the water was already a little bit on the stinky side, and you could feel sort of a slimy residue on the inside of the bag. None of this impacted the fish, though. The fish absolutely looked fine. So I went through a normal acclimation process. I floated the bags for probably an hour or more to temperature acclimate, and then I did a standard removal of about half of the water from the bags and added half from my very well-established fish tanks and let them acclimate for about another half hour, and then it was time to release them. And I will say that I did not quarantine these fish, which I will often do, but because I had listened to the podcast, I kind of had this level of confidence that maybe I shouldn't have had, but I did, that these fish were coming from a disease-free facility. So I went ahead and put them directly into my established aquariums. And so far I haven't had any reservations about that at all. I did not, however, put any of the bag water into my tanks, instead pouring the fish out through a net into a bucket in my office and then releasing the fish. And I can tell you almost immediately these fish showed no signs of stress, none. The blue Cochu tetras were breathing heavily for a little bit, but I would say no more than 5 minutes. And after that, they were swimming around the tank. Initially, they were schooling with my rummy nose tetras, but as of now, the next day, the trio is spending most of its time swimming with each other. I tried to get some good pictures of it, but these are very fast fish, and they don't slow down much. But the iridescent blue is unbelievable, and I had a chance to see them as my sunrise-sunset cycle was starting on the lights this morning, and unfortunately I didn't get any video of it, but they were absolutely beautiful under the sunrise setting. And now, even now with the lights on full, they are absolutely amazing. And I'm just really, really glad that I did this. And one of the things I like to do is I like to feed the fish shortly after they've been established and feel like they have found themselves just to see, to me, if they're eating, then that means they're happy and they're not stressed. And all of these fish were eating within 15 minutes of being introduced into the aquarium. So that was really pleasant. I first heard about Dan's fish when I was listening to the Aquarium Co-op podcast. He was a guest on there, and he was talking about how he's really trying to improve the hobby from the fish's experience, to make them ship better, to make them arrive better sourcing, that kind of thing. And he was talking about how that was one of the reasons why things were more expensive. So I decided, all right, this is worth exploring. So I went online to look at his website, dansfish.com, and I saw the prices, and the first time I did it, it scared me away. And then Dan was back on the podcast, or I re-listened to the podcast.
You may have noticed that we tend to be more expensive than other aquarium fish stores.
And I heard him talking about it again, and I thought, if these fish are that much healthier.
And I want to explain why. It has to do with how we source our fish, how we maintain them, and how we transport orders to our customers.
Then why not give it a shot? When I got to his website, I was looking for some fish that I didn't have that would go well in my planted aquariums. So I looked at the blue Cochu Tetra, which is not a fish I had ever kept before. But at $7.99 each, that was a bit of a push, but I thought, okay, well, if they arrive looking as good as I hope they look, maybe it'll be worth it. Normally I would order a larger group, but because of the price, I held back because I'm still sort of seeing if it's worth it. Then I ordered 5 silver tip tetras. I had a trio of silver tip tetras, and I was down to 1 in an aquarium, and I really liked that fish. And even locally purchased in the fish store, they're very expensive. So I popped for those at $6.99 each, and then I ordered a pair of Apistogramma cockatoides Orange Flash, and that was $64.99 for the pair. And so now I'm just watching these fish swim happily in the fish tanks, whether I'm looking at those silver tip tetras in the smaller aquarium, or the blue Cochus, or the pair of Apistogrammas in my planted 55. And man, I am just really happy. And I think that I probably will be okay with spending more money, even if I spend it a little less often, to get fish of this quality. I've been impressed with what I've heard on the podcast from Dan. I have been impressed pretty much with everything Aquarium Co-op does and says, and so that's a plus because those two seem to have an affiliation. In fact, the card that came with the shipping order shows Aquarium Co-op and Dan's Fish branding, so clearly there's an affiliation there. But it seems to be a good one, and it seems to me to be very legit. So I probably will be adding some more of these blue Cochus to this group, so I don't just have 3, because I do like the schooling fish. I like to have 6 or 7 of them, so I'll probably get some more of those, and we'll see what else strikes my fancy down the road. But this is basically a review of Dan's fish, and I got to tell you that I've been really happy with it. Now just about 48 hours into the purchase, but I don't see anything wrong with these fish at all.